Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Since this is my first video, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Joji, but you can call me Joj. I am a business conversation course tutor and have been teaching English to Japanese professional learners for 2 years now. In this channel, I will be sharing with you some helpful grammar tips and useful expressions that you can use in writing or in daily conversation. For today's topic, I will be talking about two subordinating conjunctions, despite and in spite of. I choose this topic because these are parts of speech that are commonly and widely used in any platform. Now, first of all, what is a subordinating conjunction?
Now, a subordinating conjunction is simply the word or group of words used to join or link two clauses together. Examples are despite, in spite of, whether, while, though, although, even though, notwithstanding, regardless of, and the list goes on. Now, despite and in spite of, like most subordinating conjunctions, express a contrast between two clauses. Let's take this example. Despite the pressure, Tina performed her tasks well. So these are two clauses, and despite expresses the idea or expresses a contrast between two ideas, the pressure and Tina performing her tasks well.
Now, what's the difference between despite and in spite of? Well, they pretty much mean the same thing, but despite is more often than not found in writing or in more formal texts. Now, since they mean the same thing, replacing one with the other doesn't change the thought or idea of a sentence. Let's take this example.
So today's temperature remains the same in spite of the rain. Now, this sentence is saying that even though it's raining, today's temperature remains the same. Now we'll try to replace in spite of with despite. Today's temperature remains the same despite the rain. So still, this sentence is saying that even though it's raining, today's temperature remains the same. So replacing one with the other doesn't affect or change the thought of a sentence.
Now, a common mistake that I usually come across with is adding the preposition of to despite, making it despite of. This is incorrect. You don't say despite of, but instead you say in spite of or despite.
Now, despite of is incorrect. There is no such word as despite of, but rather you say despite or in spite of.
So, how are despite and in spite of being used in a sentence? Pretty simple. Let's take the first pattern.
Despite the warning, the students continued their activity. So there are two clauses in the sentence, the subordinating clause, despite the warning, and the main clause, the students continue their activity. Now, since the subordinating clause comes before the main clause, a comma is placed between two clauses. Now let's take the second pattern. Emma went for a trip despite the rain. Now, Emma went for a trip is the main clause, and despite the rain is the subordinating clause. Since the subordinating clause comes after the main clause, a comma is not needed in this sentence. So again, if the subordinating clause comes before the main clause, a comma is placed between the two clauses. And if it comes after the main clause, there's no need to put a comma anymore. Now, the same rules apply to in spite of. In spite of the recession, small businesses are still thriving. So, in this case, in spite of the recession, this is the subordinating clause and it comes before the main clause. Therefore, you place a comma in between two clauses or after the subordinating clause. Now, the manager hired him in spite of his extensive criminal record. Now, the manager hired him is the main clause, and in spite of his extensive criminal record is a subordinating clause. And since it comes after the main clause, there is no need to put a comma anymore.
Now, despite and in spite of are usually followed by a noun, a gerund, a pronoun phrase, or a phrase with what or how. Here are more examples.
So despite and in spite of, like I said, are usually followed by a noun or a noun preceded by the article the, gerund, pronoun phrase, or phrase with what or how. Let's take the examples here. He persevered in spite of poverty. Now, in spite of is followed by the noun poverty. Second one, the parade went on in spite of the fact that it was raining. So, in spite of is followed by the fact, which is uh, an article plus noun. So, the is the article, fact is the noun. Now, third, despite coming home late, Kath still manages to cook dinner. Now, despite here is followed by coming, which is a gerund. A gerund is a verb ending in ing that functions as a noun in a sentence. So, coming is a gerund. Now, the fourth one. The court pushed through the warrant in spite of his plea. So, in spite of is followed by his plea, which is a pronoun phrase. His is a pronoun, plea is a noun. And the last one, William has the courage to move on despite what happened. So, despite here is followed by what phrase, which is what happened. So, what happened? That's the what phrase.
So now we know what subordinating conjunctions are, the difference between despite and in spite of, and how they are being used in a sentence. I hope you learned from today's grammar tip. I will try as much as I can to upload regularly. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you like it. You can also share this video to your family and friends. Thank you so much for your time and see you next time. Bye!